is Hope at Crafty Hope, and I am working in an art journal. Hey, look at that. Actually, this one was inspired by something, I don't know. I'd seen somebody do something in a YouTube video, and I'm horrible about writing down who I saw do what, but it inspired me to make a little note, and then I made this from that little note. That little note told me to lay down some collage, throw some gesso on it, do some stamping, and then add some texture paste. So, well, that's it. Ta-da! You've seen the video now. No, I'm kidding. But that's basically what I'm going to do with this. And I also had recently made up a batch of homemade texture paste. This is from Michelle of Michelnay's recipe. I'll link that in the description box below so that if you want to make some of your own, you can do that. And I'll have to admit, you'll see my tiny little container of it in a little bit. And that's because I either halved or quartered her recipe because I don't have a whole lot of gesso at my disposal at the moment because I can't go to the craft store since we're under quarantine. And I know I could order some, but I'd rather go somewhere and use a coupon to get my gesso. So holding off on doing that for the time being because I'd rather just go out and do it by myself. Anyway, so I have got a Dylusions journal here, and then I'm just using whatever ephemera I've got in this little box over here, book pages and handwritten notes, and it looks like maybe part of a letter and some instructions and a piece from my yearbook and some scrapbook paper and ledger paper, just everything. I've got a little bit of everything. I am keeping the color scheme mostly monochromatic, blacks, whites, aged colors. I've got that little bit of green ledger. But once I put the gesso on all of this, it really doesn't make a difference. And I'm just using my Uhu glue stick to stick that down. I really enjoy using the glue stick. I know it's not always the most effective thing, especially when the corners for me don't ever really glue down. But I'm using it because I don't know, there's something about very tactile about it that you've got to use your hands and really get on the pages and feel that. And so that's why I like using the glue stick. So I am going in with, I believe it's Dinah Wakely gesso that I have. And what is that? It's a Master's Touch, so it's a Hobby Lobby silicone brush thing that I'm just using to spread out the gesso. And I realize in a couple places here, you can see I'd start scraping it up here because I realize it's just too thick. I want some of the papers to show up, so I'm scraping it up, and then I'm going to just grab another one of my books I use as an art journal and just put that down in there, so I'll have, kind of a page started. Otherwise, I'm trying to get better about not wasting some of the supplies that I pull out, paints and gesso and all of that, and use them in other places. So that's what I did. So from here, I'm doing the stamping portion of this, and I'm using StazOn because I was fairly sure I was going to use some water-soluble stuff here later, and I wanted to make sure that my stamps didn't run. So I've got just some texture stamps, like a chicken wire type one, and then a text one. And in a minute, I've got this Tim Holtz stamp set that looks like I got it Tuesday morning there. And I selected that one because it's got eggs and birds and nests on it. And it felt very spring-like to me. And with it being, the beginning of spring here, I wanted something that was very happy in the spring. And even the colors I end up using are all very spring-inspired. So I grabbed this nest stamp, which is, I don't know, quite symbolic because I have found in the last 3 weeks, I found 3 nests that are, it's been kind of interesting. So 2 of them were abandoned, 1 of them was not and had to be moved from under my hood of my car. So that was, I don't know, heartbreaking for me to have to move a nest full of eggs. But I didn't want anything to happen to it. And anyway, so here is where I got those stamps down, and then I pulled out a couple stencils. I just wanted, I don't know, when I selected the stencils, I just selected some that were just shapes, just something because I just wanted to play with the texture paste from Michelle, or the molding paste, texture paste, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm just using these 2, which it seems I've used recently because I think I saw another video where I had these used in it recently. But anyway, that's what I am using, and just a palette knife to get my texture on there. And I'm not being super precise. I wanted to make sure there was lots of texture on this, and I just left it to dry. I did not use my heat gun. I left it to air dry. And then I selected some colors of Lindy stamps and a Dylusion stamp. So I got, I think, a teal, a green, and a rose in the Lindy's, and then a yellow in the Dylusions, because I don't have a good yellow in the Lindy's. So this, let's see, what else did I want to tell you? I am not spraying these because spraying is not exact, and I wanted to make sure I got these colors kind of in a pattern. I was trying to go for kind of a rainbow-esque thing, which I love me some rainbows, and I love the blending of colors and rainbows, and so that's what I was going for. So I started with the blue, and again I pulled it out the, like, that nozzle thing, and put that down on my my textured area. And then I'm just using some water and a wet paintbrush to kind of spread it out a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I've got this lime, key lime maybe, something like that, that I'm putting that green down. And y'all, I hate it. In the end, in the pictures, you don't really see the sparkle from the Lindy's, which is crazy because there's so much of the sparkle, but when I hold that book up in the light and move it around, it just shimmers. There's an actual absolute shimmer to it. So here's me making some magic and blending these colors. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know I love to kind of, I don't know, let colors blend in, bleed. I love anything that's kind of water soluble, and I love taking just a little bit of water and making stuff kind of just meld. So anyway, that's what I'm hoping to do. I didn't use a whole lot of that yellow in the Dylusions because the Dylusions tends to be really color rich. And so I was just adding a little bit at a time so that it didn't get overwhelming. And I was all, greens and blues are kind of my favorite colors. And I realized when I got here to this rosy corally color that I didn't leave a whole lot of room for it. So I'm going to try it a second here to get it to spread out a little into the yellow and the green so that there's a little bit more of it. There's where, yeah, I'm just using my finger just to kind of get it on there a little bit more, but then I'm going to grab it and put a little bit more on there to make sure that color is just a little more rich. So, this was a lot of fun, and I was trying to be really careful and not, because I tend to be so sloppy with inks and stuff, but tried to make sure that it, didn't spread and seep into the creases of the book. So, and then I've got this, what is it? It's like a laser cut wood flower from, I got that at Michael's. I think it was on clearance. And I went back and forth about what I wanted to add on there, and for some reason I was like, let me just grab those little laser cut pieces because I don't know what I'm going to do with them anyway. So, and I'm painting it white because I thought, well, I'll admit at first I thought I was going to stick it on there white, but because there's still so much white space on this page, it doesn't really work. So, and you see I've got a toothpick there because I got too much paint on it, and I'm trying to pick the paint out, and so I'm going to coat it again, and then I'm going to have to go back and pick the paint out again. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this part of it was not on my list of things that I wanted to do for this page. Yeah, so I'm gonna put it down and look at it, and this is where I realize, oh no, that does not pop. It doesn't do anything. It needs something behind it. So I grab I got this little bucket of different fabrics that are tea dyed and coffee dyed and rust dyed and all of that, and I'm looking for something that'll work, and I end up, I think, pulling out a piece of cheesecloth that was just coffee dyed. It's not as white as it could be. It was just like lightly, maybe it was tea dyed, because it's not super dark, but it's not the stark white of the plain. And you can see there, it's not completely what I want, but I knew it was better than nothing. So I was like, well, we'll go with that. And that's when I decide what I really need to do is color that flower. So I grab my coral, just craft paint, and I'm going to paint it that color. And I'm using a dry brush and trying not to use as much paint to do it because I didn't want to have to pick out all the paint again, and that worked so much better. And some of the edges don't have as much paint on it, but that's really kind of okay. It gives it kind of a vintage, rustic feel that I really dig. So, and then I decided that the inside of the flower really needed to be yellow, kind of like it would in real life. So I got just a little bit of yellow paint and added that, and it just kind of blends in. It doesn't stand out at all. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I didn't include it in the video, but once this page was done and I was looking at it, the flower just didn't stand up against the sparkle. So I ended up putting a little bit of glossy accents on it just to give it a little something something. So you'll see that in the pictures at the end. Now, looking at that page, I knew it needed some black. It needed a little darkening up. So I'm just taking some black acrylic paint and water and a fan brush and making some black splatters because, you know, it needed some splatters. And then when you look at the pictures at the end, you'll see, I don't know, the splatters are just fabulous. They're really exactly what this page needed. So, and with that, y'all gotta look at this. I love the way that my words, where are my words? That these stamps that are in the background behind the texture paste, the way that they're broken up and just barely coming through, that was what I wanted to do when I did that whole, like, what I had written down, that layer thing. So that's, oh, it's perfect. I love that you can see that, like, just bits and pieces of that chicken wire in the background. So anyway, I had trouble deciding what I was going to do with that cheesecloth. You see, I folded it about 600 times, and yeah, I didn't know. So I just set it there and was like, no, I need some words. Let me look at my Tim Holtz stickers. So I went through and I knew I needed something kind of small because I needed it to go on that flower because that's where it obviously had to go. And I picked out one and it says, just breathe. And this time, in what's going on in the world, I think that's what we all need to hear. Just take a deep breath. Just breathe. It's going to be okay. So that's what I picked out, and I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to cut down this cheesecloth. There's just too much of it, and I throw it off to the side, and y'all look where I threw it. I threw it right into that puddle of black acrylic paint. So yeah, it's okay. I'm going to use that later. So I'll show it to y'all here in a second. But I finally get all that layered up just the way I want it. And I'm going to pull out, I believe it's just some matte gel medium, and go ahead and just stick it down because I know I futzed with it just far too much. And I'm just kind of thickly putting that gel medium down, and then I'm going to use it also on my my little flower. And I don't think I put anything on the sticker. I'm just expecting it to just stick to the flower. And when I do put the glossy accents on, that I think helped a little bit, but I didn't pull the sticker up or anything to put that on. Oh, and here's where I realized that, yeah, I've gotten black paint on that cheesecloth over there. But again, I will absolutely use that. It's floating around here in the craft room now, and I'll find a use for it. So that's where I start to think maybe I'm done. But yeah, look at that. How yummy is that? So I'm thinking again, and I decide that the cheesecloth that's there needed a little darkening up. I had the black splatters. Maybe I needed something dark on there. And so I start spreading that out, and I kind of like it, but it needed more. So I'm just taking a water-soluble graphite pencil. That's not the Lyra ones that are the really nice ones. This one, I believe, came from the dollar store some time ago, and I just looked up and happened to find it. So that's what I'm using to kind of just add a little bit of darkness to this page to kind of make sure that that flower and everything is kind of the bright spot, even though, you know, I've got a whole rainbow and floral, and anyway, I wanted that to be kind of the bright spot. So I've got that, and I'm just kind of blending out that darkness. And I'm going to finally leave it here in a second. Y'all can get a couple looks at this. Like I said, you'll notice there the sparkle on the flower because I added that glossy accents. But I'm super happy with this page that was inspired by something else. So I hope you'll give this a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and let me know if you have any questions. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Bye.